Now take two for the grand final. There's less hype but no less passion around Melbourne as tomorrow hopefully decides who will be the premiers for 2010, St Kilda or Collingwood. I spoke to AFL chief Andrew Demetriou about the hot topics this week, the rules on a draw and the league's multi-million-dollar man, Gary Ablett. Andrew Demetriou, welcome to State Line.
Thanks for having me.
If you take your CEO hat off, as a footy fan, what was your reaction to last Saturday's draw?
Well, it was an amazing game, so I was absolutely exhilarated by the experience. I mean, it was just an incredible experience to be there. And I was probably like most other football fans, thinking, golly gosh, we've got to come back and do this all again.
So on the one side you're pleased because you'd been tipping a draw.
In some ways,
but
yeah.
You can understand how the footy fan feels that they want to see a result. And even the players don't necessarily want to come back, do they?
Oh, no, I'm sure there's mixed feelings. I'm sure there were players that thought that, but there were other players who said, look, I didn't play well. This gives me a chance to redeem myself next week. And
has the reaction at all influenced your view about whether the rules should change?
Certainly hasn't influenced my, certainly my thinking. I can't speak for the rest of the Commission. They'll have their own views, but we are a unique sport. We've always done things on our own. We play on a funny oval with a funny oval ball, and it's an unpredictable game.
But it is odd that this grand final will be played under different rules when it comes to a draw.
Look, it is, and I can understand people asking that, but we did reflect on the fact that if we were to play, in the unlikely event that's only happened 3 times in over 100 years, we had another draw, we do think that would be a tall order to ask our clubs to come back, our players to come back 3 weeks in a row. We would significantly disrupt other events that are going on, and we don't certainly want to be in that position. And I think people accepted the fact that this week they want a result.
How much money is the AFL going to make out of this game?
I don't know the answer to that yet because we haven't finalised it. The sort of numbers that have been bandied around are completely exaggerated, as they were for Gary Ablett.
Between 15
No,
and
not at all. Not at all.
Million?
And no, not at all. And as I said the other day, in my view, it'll be somewhere around the $10 million mark, but it certainly won't be the amount of money that's been bandied around.
And how will that money be distributed?
Primarily, as you know, we've already distributed some of it to the clubs and our players, some to charity. The rest, as an organisation, we will reinvest back into our programs which we hold very dear to us, our grassroots programs, things like Auskick, facilities for community football, our development programs, schools.
There's also been a big reaction this week to Gary Ablett. Will some of that money that comes from Saturday's grand final be going to the Suns?
No, not at all. I mean, the Gold Coast Suns and Team GWS have been allocated their monies. It's about $220 million over the next 6 years. And the sort of numbers that have been bandied around by Gary Ablett are completely irresponsible. I mean, if anyone knows anything about the way football clubs operate, the total player payment scheme, or what's known as the old salary cap, it's just impossible to pay the sorts of money that have been talked about for Gary Ablett.
So how much is he being paid?
I don't know, because I'm not privy to it.
So would you know that he's not being paid $9 million over 5 years?
Absolutely, I would know, because it's impossible to pay 20% of the almost 25% of the salary cap to a player. It's impossible.
Even if it's $1 million a year, is a player worth that much?
Yeah, I think they are.
So $1 million is okay, $1 million a year?
If a player's earning $1 million, I mean, we had a player, Anthony Koutafidis, that was earning in excess of $1 million a year a few years ago. The best players in the competition are worth that money, like the best actor in a movie, like the best dancer in a theatre show. The best players are entitled to earn what the game can afford, and whether it's Gary Ablett or Chris Judd or Nick Riewoldt, they're entitled to earn a significant amount of money.
But do you agree that there's not a level playing field, that no club could have competed with the Suns, the Gold Coast Suns, because they've been given this extra money?
No, I don't, because that's also another myth, that the Gold Coast Football Club have got an additional amount of money to somehow woo Gary Ablett. He has said that, A, obviously money was a factor in his decision, but B, what's more important, and this is not unusual for greats, he wants a new challenge, and the challenge of going to the Gold Coast is something that appeals to him.
What do you say to the 9-year-old boy who's been wearing the number 29 Guernsey in Geelong for years? What do you say to him? How do you explain that to him?
Oh, look, it's hard to explain because I'm a bit like the 9-year-old boy, and the sort of romantic in me would have preferred that Gary Ablett would stay at Geelong. You'd like to see great players stay at their clubs, and he's an iconic player. But I think, as he said at the press conference, hopefully in time they will understand, and they'll now put Joel Selwood's number on their back, or the new person who replaces Gary Ablett. For every player that leaves, great player, we replace them with great players. Team
number 17 comes into the AFL next year. How will that change the way fixtures operate?
Oh, it's bloody confusing, to be honest. It's got me bamboozled. But what it means is that each club will have 2 byes, and that makes the fixturing really difficult. We'll have to play our 22 rounds over 24 weeks. Hence why we'll probably be playing the grand final on October the 1st next year, much to the disappointment of my twin girls. That's their birthday. If history repeats itself, the best 8 teams will get through to the final 8, and the top 4 will probably get through to the preliminary finals, and we'll see what we're seeing this year.
Presuming there's a result at the Siren
yes.
without extra time, who are you tipping?
Well, I tipped Collingwood last week, and I thought that they would win pretty well, actually. But after what I saw last week, I'm still going to tip them, but by a much smaller margin, perhaps a couple of points.
Andrew Demetriou, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Josephine. All the best.